Ladies and gentlemen, how you all doing? This is Conover.
This is Rangru. Hello, hello, hello.
And folks, more monthly tournament coverage today. Today, of course, we are on Orsha East. Not North, as somebody out there might have suspected. So, Ryan, who do we have, though?
On the left-hand side in the blue, we have some new, calling WSN, playing the Panzer Division, Pansari Division in Finnish. We're going to cast in a Finn who plays Finland. They have Vanguard Income, right-hand side in red. We have Colonel Koenig, playing 3rd VDV, River V for Victory Income.
That V for Victory that we saw, I think it was last week, wasn't that a VDV division matchup as well?
Honestly, I forgot what I had for breakfast today, so I can't tell you.
That's entirely fair, but you know what you do see over here on the Finnish side is that freaking Nimrod. I am so psyched for this thing. Oh, but 51 borders over here right in the middle, desperately kind of set up for the Chikaris and doing exactly what you expect to see. Oh, look at all this kind of stuff here that's definitely going to be sitting down. Well, they weren't able to save all the Chikaris, but they were able to save some of them, I suppose.
Yep, the transport change is definitely going to be beneficial for them. But seeing the 50 mils had to get some very good stun and hit on the two-man, Russians getting to the edge. But really, a pretty light push in the center. As we're seeing down south, it's a little bit more heavy duty. The Blenheim, T-3045, and a bunch of infantry pushing on through.
Well, up to the north, too, they actually have more 50 mils up on top. So they are really trying to work the edges here. A lot of Chikari picking on the PTRSs, the 50 mils are doing their thing. And the Descent Maxima down here actually getting blown to shreds. So kind of an uncommonly common opening, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, the central position is definitely quite weird of how really quiet and empty it is, even though people are dying. But up north, it makes sense for either side to push heavy up north, because it's one of those positions. If you capture it, it's very hard to lose it, just as long as you don't lose everybody. Just make sure people die a lot or less.
I think it's a nice thing to think about in a lot of different war zones is try to make the other bastard die first and then die. You know, it's a very unique idea.
Yeah, guns are very good at it, apparently.
You know, I tried shouting bang at an intruder at one point. It didn't work quite as well as you might have expected. Chikari, though, fighting off the guard squads, and the 50 mil mortars just kind of throwing rounds downrange with kind of the wanton care of all the youths that you might have known.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, South Central side, yeah, sorry, please go
ahead.
No,
he just doesn't have the, what's it called? Like the force of infantry to really make a good push in the center.
No, but you know what he does have? More 50 mil mortars, which are doing their thing.
Damn.
There's still one Descent Nikki Maxim that's going to cause a little bit of a hassle here. Might be able to take out one of 50 mils before the Tourney comes down to play.
Indeed, and we are seeing once some noob is investing quite a decent amount in armor early on. Of course, Panzer Division is not like a proper Panzer Division technically, but they do have some decent tanks, at least with the Stug 3s and the T-3045s, and especially against 3rd VDV, which is very limited on its tank support. Those guys can really hit above their rate.
Actually, I think you're talking about the glory of the T-26s.
Oh, those too. That's a lovely thing about the Panzer Division. You have a little bit of everything.
Some of the things you wish you left behind.
Yeah. Can I refund this with the Soviets, please? I want to upgrade it for a better tank.
Finns used repatriate equipment. It's not very effective.
Soviets like, God damn, you guys are still using this?
Dude, we stopped using this back in the Russo-Japanese War. They weren't invented yet. I know. Northern side, take out this on Nikki and running afoul of Kavari and the Chikari. They're going to hold up for right now, especially this on Nikki DTs. But I think Chikari are just too dang deadly, and they're going to be able to push them back out of the force, at least for the most part.
Yeah, that's a very nice thing about the Finnish Panzer Division, is that you still have really good infantry. You're not really making that much of a sacrifice for it. As Chikari's really the only infantry, frankly, anyone ever needs. They just do everything really well.
Yep. They have flame, they have fire, they have a tank fist. Yep. pretty dang solid, my friend.
Pretty close to having all 4 elements.
True, true. Quadruple threat almost. I will say also, may have been later in the center, but he is aggressing well.
Yeah, he's done a decent job of securing the 50-yard line pretty much in the center and building up quite a heavy amount of armor here. So it definitely seems like Koenig is setting up more for a defensive battle. I mean, he has lost a lot of bit of ground down south at one flag position. So WSN invests in quite heavy in his tanks. He doesn't really get a whole lot of his good tanks in availability. So it's going to be important for him to make sure they stay alive.
Well, I'll tell you one thing is probably not going to stay alive is T-28s, but the Silka 76 for right now should be able to change positions. Wait, what do we have here? Oh, the blood arms are getting engaged. Okay, not too shocking.
Yak 90 trying to get behind. Really shoot him down.
It's entirely possible. I could have sworn he had bombs off, so I didn't see the bombs actually drop. Huh.
Plane's gonna drop you.
It certainly is, and it's definitely not Valentine's Day either, as the Valentine, which took 3 decades to get there in the first place, goes down within the first few seconds of engagement.
just classic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But that said, it feels like VDV is maybe trying to rotate some equipment still up to the top, which makes sense. But at the same time, it kind of doesn't. At that point, to me, I'm thinking to myself, you know what? You lost the flag in there. Screw it. Set up a cordon. Don't lose any other ones, and then push someplace else.
I mean, he's kind of like on the edge of completely losing out zone, so he's holding on to dear life. I think the problem is his current force of units here are a little bit spread out. They don't have a whole lot of good fire support backing them up. You really need some extra fire support for every bombs out of airplanes, support guns, whatever, if you want to get back into the forest. But he can at least hold the edge of the forest to deny enemy anti-tank guns from getting shut up.
That does seem fair. Now, some of the other Boita equipment, for lack of a better term, is quite talented in picking up... Uh-oh. Wow, that was rather underpowered. There's able to pick up the Studebakers. Yeah, but the T-70 over here in the BAF C. The T-70 goes down. Jeez.
Yeah, good little flank here. It's actually getting some very good hits onto the side of Colonel Koenig's position. Definitely making him regret setting up all his infantry out in the open, but for Koenig, there's really nowhere else for him to set up his infantry.
I think more the fact that there was just trucks coming over the open field and kind of has the result that you expect, which is poof.
Yeah.
So, regardless, a T-34 coming on and 2 T-34s coming on in, and is that some? Yep, 9L2, which is probably the most obvious cannon to kill a mosquito moment that we have going on so far in this match.
Yeah, it's going to use that to knock out the armoured cars, which aren't exactly high-value targets, but it's more of just the opportunity cost, because he can't let them stay alive, because by God, getting lots of kills. It should give the 45 mil. Nope, backs off just in the nick of time, and the T-34 is going to take his spot.
Yes, he is. Looking back at the central position, we do have a little bit more of a, I suppose, a vague kind of equilibrium here. 120 mil actually is looking to the northern side. He's being kind of a pain.
Yeah.
Very much a pain, in fact. Now, looking elsewhere, as we're looking down south, things seem kind of quiet, which is surprising because we'd see some action. There definitely has been some action, just nothing too crazy. And I'm just trying to figure out. You said, for example, that we are seeing a mass over here of armor from WSN, but CK-42, not Crusader Kings 42. That would take about 400 years for development, but the CK-42, I think, is just content to sit, just wait and wait and wait some more.
Yeah, honestly, it's really his best bet of the income choices, because he could try to make a push right now, but B-phase, it's kind of impossible for him to make a good push. Just 90 points a minute is not great. if he can survive till C phase and grind down WSN's rather limited, like, effective tank pool, he's going to be in a good position to, I'm not going to say, like, drop paratroopers on Helsinki, but, you know, make a decent counterattack.
I think they start dropping more of those bread baskets.
Oh, yeah.
With the 45 mil in the meantime down south, engaging Maxims. I mean, you have Jakari kind of doing their thing. Yeah, this is going to heat up a little bit more, so I think the T-28 is going to come on in and try to be plucky. Unfortunately, I don't think that rinky-dink kind of monstrosity of a tank is really going to be extant for too long here.
Yeah, it's a bit outdated, you'd have to say. Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah.
T-28's, like, honestly, it's like in my top 5 favorite tanks. It's not effective, but it was very good for when it came out.
I can never recall which is the one that looked like a battleship.
T-35.
Ah, the T-35.
It was like multiple turrets.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
yes.
a T-35 because everyone in that interval period was going, you know, we had these really big World War I tanks. What if we make them just bigger?
Which is one of those moments where you're like, okay, do you work for Acme or are you just consulting?
Didn't you realize the French built an FT-17?
I just realized also the ISU-152 is on the field and it is taking names.
Mm-hmm.
Not many names, mind you. It has a bit of a limited supply of name-taking. Regardless, it's nice to see it.
Yeah. The single one they had. Well, technically, little history lesson. The Finns meant to capture 2 ISU-152s. One of them they just used as a recovery vehicle and never saw frontline service. The second run, which is the run you're seeing right now, was actually put in the front line, but I believe it only survived 4 or 5 days before it got blown up.
Well, that's what tends to happen when you are the entire anti-tank force, anti-tank vehicle force for Finland, when you're like, yes, congratulations, you are now the assault gun battalion, and you're like, ah, yes, where are my comrades? No, you are the battalion.
Regis Russian, it's in manual, we gotta off-run the dead bodies, you'll figure it out.
Look at it this way. They were like, they made it so easy that they thought so poorly the guys from Siberia, they could use that. So be fine. Nostavaki over here being brought on in, and you know, I would go on a rant about disheartened troops, but I made a resolution that I'm going to try to be a little bit less like that this year. And they're not
There's only
terrible.
a few of them.
They're just not stellar. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's what it is. What it is.
At least they got Molotovs. I mean, any idiot can throw a Molotov cocktail.
Except perhaps, ironically, Molotov himself. Guy did not really have a great baseball arm.
No.
Ooh, center. So, you know the Strumbavikis, the guards, Desantniki?
Yep.
So there's been a bit of a rotation. There was a plucky, perhaps, push into that little southern part of the town, which I actually kind of like. Unfortunately for them, even if they get through there, there's a number of Valentine tanks. There's a 45 mil that can kind of just rotate around. And the T-28 is deciding to go side on to Desantniki squad.
Yeah, it's not a very good push for the T-28. They're gonna get blapped. Well, the infantry getting the kill, and then if the Valentine and 45mm move out into position, that's gonna just be a very effective place for him to start getting some very good fire into the southern end of the center.
Maybe what he's doing with this is he's saying, I'm just trying to unmask positions. These T-28s are more or less pretty useless to me. And when I bring in the powerhouse that is the T-26 patrol, then we're going to be brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And the first platoon is on its way.
There we go. That's one thing the Finns had a lot of. T-26s.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's pretty easy to get them when you set an ambush for a tank platoon and the entire company says, all right, I'm out.
You're a Rin, a 1930s tank, or a log.
Exactly. Like, Mother Nature says, my turn.
Yeah.
The Nostalvakis, after watching some of their comrades get blapped, are shifting on forwards. 120 mil continues to just barrage the north, and now we're seeing the T-34-76s tentatively approach the forest. Very tentatively.
And we're seeing WSN invest more in his tanks. He's got some of the Panzer IVs out. He's doing a good job of keeping them alive. He's not just rushing him into the fray. However, he's not... You really do need the +2 advantage to get the most out of his income. And he's not getting it. So that's going to be the issue going forward here, because that will give Colonel Koenig time if he doesn't also trade horribly to, amass a huge force in sea phase and counterattack.
True. One of the precious 85s goes down to the south. Thank you very much, IL-2s. And the Nimrods are both on the field, aren't they? Yeah, the Nimrods are both on the field. One to the north, one to the center. Unfortunately, not a whole lot of anti-air cover in the south, which will continue to be a problem for quite a bit of time. And while the T-26s are being brought to the front, everything else that could conceivably be called a tank, not counting the thing that nominally is a tank, is getting killed.
Yeah, it's just getting a bit meat grindy here. We've seen the push in the center here from WSN, but he just does not have enough infantry to push through. Honestly, it's actually... I'm surprised how meat grindy this match has become. Like, it's a pretty clear, 50-yard, defense right down the middle, apart from one or two areas. And Colonel Koenig's done a very effective job of just holding on and not taking too many steps back.
Well, maybe they didn't get the order just yet. However, we have some of these squads like the Sturmoviki that are desperate to get in that south central part of the town, and getting knocked just in time by this Maxim that's just pounding them into paste. Now, to the north we have supply truck coming on in to kind of go resupply those lovely, lovely mortars, which have been so effective. Actually, I think I really very much agree with that idea. Push the mortars up, reload them. Those things right there were doing a lot of work for you. You might as well do it again.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised WSN hasn't been more aggressive up north. He has really good infantry to fight in the forest. The Finns are pretty specialized in that. And this is an area of the map he just needs to shut down. So he doesn't have to worry about investing more resources here. So he can focus on trying to rupture through the center or the southern side.
Wait, are you telling me that the Finns like fighting in the shade?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, okay.
They even bring their own aspice.
Well, I was just thinking to myself, the Soviets kind of come forward, they're like, our men will blot out the sun. And the Finns like, yes, we'll fight in the shade, that's cool.
Us humans can handle it.
We like it there anyway, eh? I know that's, in my mind, the Finns are kind of Europe's Canadians. Because I don't think I don't think I've met either a Canadian person or a Finnish person that's ever had a chip on their shoulder, unless in fact someone put a tortilla chip on their shoulder. It's the most curious thing in the world. So,
Co-driver does, yeah.
I thought it would give you a chilly reception, not make you a warmer person. Apparently I've stumbled on a conundrum. So while Reese cheers about that, we're going to continue to have more engagements over here by the Zabuzier 76-2 from the Sotka 76.
Yeah, it's just long range back or forth, yeah. And that's going to be enough to force that T-34 back. And this is great for Koenig because he's holding on to that very thin strip of, forest on that northern point. WSN has not been able to pull him back, and just time is on Colonel Koenig's side. It may not be looking good in terms of points for him, but he can pretty easily make those points back.
For the moment, I will say Nimrod now engaged in the Yak 9T. The Blenheim should be able to get out. Yep. And the bombs not quite as effective, but they're still getting a little bit of stress, which is still quite important. And now the T-26, the charge of the Light Brigade, is happening.
Oh yeah, in the central position, we're seeing them make a rather effective push. WSN has been able to get some infantry in a good vanguard position to cover the T-26s. I do quite like the path in here, because it's going to get into a rather close quarters battle, and those T-26s, at point blank, can knock out both the Valentine and easily the Su-76.
Can, yes. Will, very different.
We'll have to see. Oh, IL-2's coming in clutch. A little bit overkill. I'm fairly certain just the rockets alone on those aircraft are more expensive than the T-26s themselves. But opportunity rise, a very rare for a strike, because that is going to buy Colonel Koenig time and space for him to set up defenses where one Valentine does go down. But even then, it still buys him time, and time is what he needs.
And the last, I would say, column, but that's kind of being very, very generous, of T-26s, at least immediately, being deployed to the south. 6 of them to kind of join 2 that are a couple hundred meters north. And this has been a quiet sector.
Yeah.
And it's worth mentioning there is a ZIS-2 that's got a rather terrifying arc of fire down that road.
Yeah, he's
yeah.
pretty much the blocking detachment to... Or not so much block his own troops. I think the Soviets... Well, they're still doing that in 44. But more so to block the Finns from taking any more steps forward.
This is true. This is true, but while we continue to look, every single time we look away, we actually, the Finns are picking up more and more ground. There's an SU-76 to the north and a ZIS-2 falling back, but outside of that, what had been a Soviet-controlled forest is no mas.
Yeah, it's really right at the end of B phase here, where he is making these offensive pushes, and it's fantastic for him. Yeah, he finally has the north under control. But now the income is really going to bite him in the arse. However, Colonel Koenig doesn't have a whole lot of C-phase tanks or anti-tank to deal with. It's going to come down to his C-phase infantry spam, because those desert need keys can be effective. I think it's going to come down for Koenig. Spam an aircraft and spam an infantry. Those are his 2 keys to victory.
That may be. That may be. The T-26s have found out that they are not the biggest, baddest thing for a whole 50 meters. And while Nostovakis are going to go and find themselves getting picked off one by one, there's still a Dornier 17 being brought in? Yeah, this Dornier.
And all I can do is carry one 500 kilogram bomb, which is kind of pathetic.
It might be pathetic, but it also can be very, very dangerous. And he did not get it off.
No, he got stressed out. Good strafing run from the AC-9.
And the last couple of T-26s are desperate to get out of that line of fire that's just murdering them. So there were 6 T-26s at the beginning of that. Now there be 2.
And probably less soon with the Desaniki in forest.
True. It's a very, very true thing. That said, Nostovaki being brought on in, and just enough, I think, foot traffic, so to speak. And, I don't know, I think this little scratch attack between 2 Nostovakis and Jakari, the 2 T-26s, that should be enough actually to push back Desaniki squad that's decently low on ammunition in the first place. And the other Desaniki squad that, outside of, a couple hundred meters, can't do diddly squat.
Yeah, if WSN can get into that position where the Desanikis are, that is such a clutch position. Because you can just set up a good defensive line in the forest, get some anti-tank guns, and then you can very easily capture the little farmstead up north, and then mostly just shut down the southern end.
And while we weren't looking, another murderous attack on the T-26s in the center by just 4 IL-2s. Which, like you said, it feels a little bit like hitting a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
And the T-26s, you gotta feel bad for them. In the same way you feel bad for the Desaniki squad that just got obliterated by the Blenheim.
Yeah, honestly, you gotta have a little bit of balls to be... You don't really get a choice, but like, okay, I'm gonna completely outdated 30s French tank, which is, yeah, a decade out of date, like, quite literally. I'm just gonna go to the front line and hopefully they don't have any tanks.
It's that kind of optimism which kept the Spins in the war for way longer than you expected.
We're also seeing up north here, like, Koenig's actually making an effective counterattack back into his forest. He's managed to win the long-range engagement, because WSN hasn't been able to get much effective fire support here. And I think Koenig is going to be able to actually... I think he could probably take the entire northern forest with what he's got.
That may be, but right now it's still 15-9. And while the T-26s are getting picked off down to the south, look at what's there to kind of stem this potential breakout. It's 2 76-2s. Congratulations, you have 2 artillery pieces, which are good. Don't get me wrong. But any kind of distant, firepower, and you are quite dead, sir.
Yeah, it's probably going to be hard for Koenig to retake a decent chunk of the southern side. Really, his best bet is to just control that farmstead and then just shut down the open area for Koenig, so WSN doesn't push up any further. But it's probably... usually once you capture the position where WSN is at, you just hold it. There's no point trying to push any further. Especially for the Finns on open ground. They don't tend to like it. Like, agrophobic?
Yeah, they're absolutely, they're absolutely
100%.
agoraphobic. Yeah.
Agora. As agrophobic, I guess, is a fear of farms.
Either that, or just a fear of being attacked by other people, I suppose. I don't know. You're like aggroed, so it's like when you play RPG games, you're fear of being aggroed. So we can play this the pacifist run.
Enemies got aggro on me. No, it's a good thing. I'm the tank.
He's like, but I'm a T-26. That's the kind of tank I am.
Oh.
Now, Jakari is being thrown into the front. You are correct that I think right now is getting very, very dicey, but you still have Tankintor Juntas, which are really good. Unfortunately, the Tankintor Junta just destroyed one of their own vehicles, like I captured.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
I think for WSN, the one really good thing he has going for him is that he's did a very good job keeping a decent amount of his effective tank support alive. So if he can use those to keep trading effectively, because Koenig doesn't have a whole lot of effective tanks, that's really his best bet. He still has a lot of infantry he can spam, and his infantry is bloody fantastic. It's just going to come down to a trading game. Just the income, the 70-point difference, is not in his favor.
That's true. That's true. But when I think about the odds not being in my favor, I think of the Hunger Games. When I think of the Finns right now, I think that they're hungry for victory. And it's a game. So you know what? I think the Finns can pull this out.
I do like this northern post, the T-34, flanking through the forest. He can probably knock out that Nimrod, and that'd be a very juicy kill. And also, more importantly, just shutting off that northern forest entirely from any more Finnish assaults.
That's true. That's true. Down south, you do see another obliterating kind of IL-2 run. But Jakari's in the forest, so Desaniki's good. Jakari's terrifyingly good.
Yeah. Well, cousin of Molotov, man.
Yes, indeed. And they're picking things off right, left, and center. The difference between, I think, the Soviets in this match as opposed to a lot of the other games we've seen before, recently, is that the Soviets in this case are actually planning for a C phase. They have 42 squads. And oh my gosh, the T-34 goes down to the Nimrod in the flanking position. That was beautiful.
Oh, damn. Yeah, that 40 mil of AUP is a scary sight to behold, especially when it's shooting at you.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Now, it doesn't mean that things are all peachy keen if you're a Finn. So, like down south, for example, we have T-34-76, and there's not a whole lot there that can go and keep them at bay. So
yeah. It's actually starting to look a little bit brighter here for WSN. I mean, up north, he's managed to counter-attack the forest push, and he's going to get set up quite nicely in there. We do see, I'd say, I guess, a counter-attack on a counter-attack with the Desert Eatkeys, but they're not going to be able to get into a good position to deal with those Jakaris, so this is going to be, once again, a good position for WSN to hold. I think the question is really get enough anti-tank and support, long-range support weaponry, to shut down the northern push, so this does not happen again.
Oh, well, there's another 4 squads being sent to the front after these Desantniki. The difference here is that Desantniki right now are being outranged completely. And there's no officers to support them either, so these guys are going to just get obliterated.
That's a problem with VDV Division, is you have some really awesome infantry, because Desert Eatkeys are ridiculously cost-effective for 15 points. They're frankly OP, but they're only good in one very niche role, and that is very close-range CQC fights. Unfortunately, the Finns are better at just CQC fights.
Yes. And doubly so when they're sitting in green cover. And Desantnikis are like, we have a DT, light machine gun, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, we have 15 guys, what do you got? And you're like, I see your point, and I cannot race you. Time to fold, sir.
Yep. All our guys got SVTs.
That's a veneer of disease, isn't
it? Yeah.
We did say the VDV, I was only assuming.
The worst one's the NKVD.
That's true. That's true. Now, the Zakaris cannot stand up to firepower, though, of half-tracks at great distance. Neither can they stand up to T-3476s. So this northern position is going to get pushed back in its own time again. But every single time they get forced back in one theater, they're there just to push forward just another one. Just a little bit, and a little bit, and a little bit. It's just this constant harassing pushes.
Yeah, WSN's done a very good job now of just playing the... Well, both sides are actually kind of getting a bit desperate and playing the entirety of the map a bit more aggressively, and we are seeing that with just how things are fluctuating. But WSN has been more effective. He's got that 15-9, that +2, and as you're seeing, you know, with only 3 minutes left on the clock for Koenig, it's up to him to make a crazy push.
The BT-42. You brave bastard. He survives. Shockingly enough, he is still alive, but this is so much fun to see the Finnish Panzer Division because we just never see them. It is like the Bovington Tank Museum of just like random stuff.
Yeah. And WSN's done a very good job of actually keeping a lot of that stuff alive. I mean, the ISU 152 is still kicking.
Well, he's got to. There's a museum piece, so he'll get in trouble if not. So. Nimrod to the north are getting engaged by the 120 mil, but the 120 mils, while they're blowing the Jakari to pieces, they're still, I don't think it's still enough to keep the Russian pushing. Because it's 17-7 in favor of WSN.
God damn. He's just, like, pulling these flags out his butt, it seems.
Now, he's hitting some surrenders here and there. I say he, I mean CK-42. But, it's still... It's a close run thing. It's a very close run thing.
Yeah, I think the problem here for CK is just not been able to... It's just the VDV problem, like get good engagements with his infantry, and also just a lack of armor. I think if he was playing a more traditional Soviet division, it would have been a bit better for him, just because he would have had like the tank spam ran C phase. You can really take advantage of that. But for the VDV, apart from Desantnikis and aircraft, not really a whole lot going for him in C phase.
Well, not curious, because I keep saying it's curious, but an unfortunate thing too is that the IL-2s, as good as all those rockets are, they've just been, in some cases, rather misguided. And I mean that both as a nice little pun, but they've been going after T-26s and not the Nimrods. They've been going after T-26s and not the Sturmies.
Yeah,
they've been going after T-26s and just,
yeah, you can kind of like saturate the environment with just these cheap, crappy tanks. You don't care if you lose a T-26, you got another Tourney in your deck.
Exactly.
And they kind of take, the rockets for you. Your applique armor, just external, mobile, and sentient.
That's true. That's true. Just not a hostile. Now, I think the Nimrod, after its long and kind of illustrious service, is finally going to go down here to the northern side, but it's just because his T-34 is being... Well, he's getting into a weird position. But Jakari's, not to be outdone, might be able to kill the Vyazevedka and then kill T-34. Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah. Goddamn holding the line here. T-34's just booking it. And thankfully those German Panzerfaust will come in quite handy here if he can get the shot off. Please get the shot off. Go in the rear.
He does not make it. He does not make it. And folks, after a rather slow start, the Finns took the center hill. They kept it for a long period of time. They held the bottom and then pushed the bottom, which is crazy to me. And this northern side, there's been more blood on this northern side than we've seen in most town fights.
Yeah, I'm honestly quite surprised it's still going on, because, like I said at the start, it usually happens and then everyone just kind of leaves it alone. But no, both players have been able to go in and out of that forest, cashing in their checks, and there's probably a lot of bodies they're going to have to clean up after the fact.
It's entirely possible. Like, I hate to be the guy, like, what was that game that came out a couple years ago? Space Janitor?
Yes, it's the Spaceship Janitor game. It's a really relaxing game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but if you can get past the whole idea of, oh, yes, I'm grabbing a man's torso and putting him away. It's,
well, someone's got to do
relaxing.
it.
That's true.
I mean, people just leave torsos around. It's just... things have really gone downhill.
Yeah, and you got to feel bad for those guys. Because those ones who are just a head or an arm, they've got no body to go with.
That's probably the best like dad pun I've had in like a few weeks.
I've been practicing, man. I get little conlings coming soon. So
Yeah.
34-45, and Orshi East falls over here to the Finns, and WSN. I have to really love his little icon there in the meantime. But KD nearly flat.
Yeah, that's close. Then looking at the kills.
IL2, 2 real kills and 3 T26s. The Valentine getting a real kill and 2 T26s. IL2 getting 2 T26s. Azis2 killing many T26s. The one in the south, Kovaleski.
Yeah.
And the losses. Here's I'm kind of interested. I would say fascinated, but that's really kind of overselling it. The sword cut that decently well. The ISU did not kill as much as I expected him to.
No, he just kind of he played it very defensively, which is what you got to do when you only have a single one. He just kept it back and used it to deny pushes rather than trying to assault with the assault gun.
So Alakula, in the meantime, the ITPSV, the Nimrod, this is the guy who killed a couple of T-34s by himself and then just held down the line. So definitely, I think, an unsung hero. And I will heartily sing of his praises for quite a bit of time. So very well done to him.
Mm-hmm.
Any final thoughts, though, sir?
No, good match.
Well, folks, in that case, then, until next time, I'm Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangru. Take it easy.